Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Museum of Fine Art. Over here you have Edvard Munch's The Scream, MC Escher's Relativity, and a bit further you'll see... What the? The self-portrait with the grey felt hat has been stolen! Whatever will we do? Well, these went up in price. That's better. Some Pokemon card artwork is so impressive that it feels like it should be framed and displayed on a wall, just like a painting. But what happens when these cards borrow elements from actual famous paintings and works of art? A few artists have directly drawn inspiration from iconic artwork, blending fine art with the charm of Pokemon cards. In this video, we'll be looking at those cards. Now, let me quickly tell you, I know nothing about art. Like, show me this and I think it's pretty cool. But show me this, and I want 10 copies. What I'm getting at is, I'll know about the Pokemon cards, but don't expect me to break down all the finer details of the original paintings. Fittingly, the first card we'll look at is a Smeargle card. Featured in the set Lost Thunder, what stands out the most on this card is the simplicity of the background. Now, this background is very reminiscent of works by Dutch abstract painter Piet Mondrian. Specifically, composition with red, blue, and yellow. Straight, horizontal, and vertical lines combined with the primary colors are what his paintings are all about. Alongside other Dutch artists, he was the founder of the Dutch art movement called the Stijl. This movement would influence pop culture with its designs, and even left its mark on modern architecture. In 2018, the Edvard Munch, a retrospective exhibition, collaborated with the Pokemon Company. This partnership led to the release of 5 Pokemon cards by 5 different artists. These cards were all based on one painting, The Scream. Held at the Tokyo Metropolitan Art Museum, the exhibition showcased various works by Munch, but the highlight was the 1910 version of The Scream, which was actually making its first appearance in Japan. Viewed as one of the earliest influences on the Expressionist movement, Munch painted The Scream after experiencing a panic attack while walking down the street with his 2 friends. The Pikachu card was given to all visitors during Pokemon Week, while the Mimikyu card was found inside the Pikachu Eevee card file at the museum shop. Meanwhile, the Psyduck, Rowlet, and Eevee cards were given out at Pokemon centers in Japan when purchasing any 2 booster packs. The card given each time was random, so you had to hope you didn't get duplicates when purchasing the packs. Where is my Rowlet? If you line up the cards in numerical order, you'll see the silhouette of the previous Pokemon in the background. Except for Psyduck, cause, you know, he's the first card. Cool Haunter and Gengar though. Each card has the same attack, which translates to Scream. This attack makes both Pokemon confused. There are actually 5 different versions of the Scream painting, and with 5 cards, I think it would have been cool to see them based on each of the different versions. Nonetheless, I think these cards look real cool, and are a great reimagining of the original. The other Pokemon Museum collaboration was the Van Gogh collab. You've likely seen some works by Van Gogh before, and probably know about him cutting a part of his ear off after a heated argument. In celebration of the museum's 50th anniversary, a special Pokemon-themed exhibit was held, which showcased artwork inspired by Van Gogh. 6 pieces were featured, but only the self-portrait with the grey felt hat Pikachu was turned into a card. Throughout his life, Van Gogh painted over 30 self-portraits, each reflecting different periods of his life. Here's one after the ear incident. The card was also distributed at the Pokemon Center online, alongside some merch, because, hey, not everyone can afford a spontaneous trip to Amsterdam, right? People went absolutely nuts for this merchandise. I wish that all artwork featured at the exhibit got a card, because I would have loved to have this Snorlax and Munchlax in a binder. At least I have the Jigsaw puzzle. Nah, I'm just kidding, I don't even have that! The next 2 cards were, fittingly, Japan exclusive. As part of a collaboration between Pokemon and the Japan Postal Service, yeah, you heard me, Pokemon-themed stamp collections were released in 2021. Starting from August that year, the Pokemon stamp box could be purchased from post offices across Japan. While the box had stamps of the starters from base set and some Sword and Shield era cards, the standouts were these 2. Cramorant in Wild Geese Flying Under the Full Moon and Pikachu in Beauty Looking Back, which were created by legendary artists Utagawa Hiroshige and Hishikawa Moronobu respectively. These were also turned into cards that were included in the box. Both of these pieces are examples of ukiyo-e, a major force of Japanese art from the 17th to 19th centuries, which captured life in Edo period Japan. It showcased subjects like folk tales, wildlife, kabuki actors, and elegant women. Works by ukiyo-e artists have gone on to even influence famous European artists, like Van Gogh and Monet. If you're wondering why these two pieces made it onto Pokemon cards and ended up in a stamp box out of all things, there's a good reason. Wild Geese and Beauty Looking Back are actually part of Japanese stamp history, first issued in 1949 and 1948 and reissued a handful of times since. So, using them for this collection was a way to celebrate 150 years of the modern Japan Postal Service. Now we're talking. This is my favorite work of art. I'm just gonna say it. The set Astral Radiance features this Origin Form Palkia card. The card is similar to a lithograph print by MC Escher. Relativity shows a scene that seems logical at first glance, but is actually impossible. Escher combines 3 different worlds, each with different sources of gravity. If you start at the bottom of the print and go by this guy's gravity, most of these other people should be falling down. Here's another one of his prints, depicting what seems like a perpetual motion machine. The waterfall was running down to power the water wheel before it reaches the top again. Obviously, this doesn't work in reality, but Escher tricks your brain by using the right perspective. It's basically one giant optical illusion. Palkia's card also contains scenery that just defies logic, but I like to imagine that such an impossible setting is possible in Palkia's world, thanks to its ability to alter space. Taking inspiration from MC Escher was the perfect choice for a Palkia card, and makes Origin Palkia Altar the coolest card in Astral Radiance. If Trainer Gallery Garchomp wasn't in the set. Paldea Evolved contains a Mismagius illustration rare that appears to draw significant inspiration from the works of Czech illustrator and painter Alphonse Mucha. Mucha was becoming famous around 1895 with his eye-catching posters and prints, eventually catching the attention of big companies. This led him to create ads for everything from chocolate to champagne. The Mismagius card seems to take elements from these commercial works, created during the height of his connection to the Art Nouveau movement. These works almost always had elegant women alongside floral patterns and designs. So I didn't name a specific piece by him, but the 1897 Season series and the style of Reverie feel like the strongest influences on the Mismagius card. This halo in particular is very Muha-like. The final card for this video is going to be the Tatsugiri illustration rare from Twilight Masquerade. This artwork has always reminded me of Keith Haring pop art. Haring's art was all about bold, graffiti-inspired designs, so thick lines, simple colors, and cartoon-like figures. He also made use of dynamic lines to show movement and energy. From 1980 to 1985, he turned the New York subway stations into his own gallery. He drew with chalk on black paper that was at the time used to cover up expired ads, making art accessible to everyone just passing through. He would take it a step further in 1986 by opening up a pop shop, letting people buy his work at an affordable price. His most famous works include the crawling baby, the dog, and the heart. Honestly, Tatsugiri is a great Pokemon for a Keith Haring-inspired piece. Its design is simple and instantly recognizable, just like Keith Haring's artwork. And that's it for Pokemon cards inspired by famous works of art. Let me know if there are any others, because I love seeing artists just take elements from famous pieces and just give them a Pokemon twist. And I'm really looking forward to more museum collaborations. Like, there's no way this is the last time Pokemon will do that, right? Right? Right?